Brazil has the 17th greatest income inequality in the entire world. It has a GINI index of 51.9%, and 26% of Brazilians live below the poverty line. 4.8 million individuals survive on no income, leaving Brazil to be one of the largest income equality gap countries in the entire world.
Our Brazilian Economic Development Plan includes three main sections. The first level is an infrastructure development project, which will be allotted $4 billion to renovate the favela districts of urban cities. The second level is an environmental sustainability project, which will be allotted $1 billion to bulk up law enforcement and establish larger protected rainforest areas. The final level involves several income inequality solutions, which will be allotted $5 billion to tackle a variety of issues, including bridging the education gap in rural areas, reforming the tax system, and redistributing idle lands.
So historically, Brazil has not actually suffered from major catastrophic environmental events, like in other areas in Latin America that are closer to seismic fault lines. However, relatively recently, the country has seen an influx of flooding and mudslides that result from just the seasonal rainfall patterns, especially in the Rio de Janeiro state. In fact, the top 10 most deadly natural disasters have all occurred in the last half century, from 1996 on, which coincides with the rise of the favelas in major urban areas.
These localized weather events highlight the major structural vulnerabilities of Brazil's urban systems, especially in regards to the favelas, pictured here. Favelas occur on plots of land with extremely low market value, for example on slopes, under mountains, or at riversides, precisely because they are hazard areas restricted from development into private estates. They consist of sporadic human settlements under no public regulation or rule of law, and are inhabited by the poorest populations that have been pushed outwards from cities. Clearly, the issue remains that as Brazilian income disparity endures, citizens will continue to require low-cost housing options. Previous government programs have attempted to remove the favelas and relocate their inhabitants to government housing projects, but for a variety of reasons, the poor populations resisted feverishly until the plans were dropped. With the $4 billion allotted to this part of our Brazilian Economic Development Plan, we propose to invest in housing repairs and upgrades on as many favela properties as possible in order to improve structural stability and decrease the number of homes lost during mudslide incidents. According to a figure from Habitat for Humanity, each renovation costs US $3,000 per family, a significantly smaller sum than would be required to build entirely new homes. This math would allow for 1.33 million houses to be upgraded across the country.
Two main environmental sustainable projects I would be looking at is the protection and maintenance of the Amazon rainforest and to help provide clean and sustainable water for the people of the north and southern eastern region of Brazil. The Amazon, sometimes referred to as the lung of the rainforest, produces 20% of the world's oxygen in which we breathe. It also produces 1/5 of the world's fresh water. It is said that every 10 to 12 years, a phenomenon drought hits the north and southeastern region of Brazil, in which it affects some of the poorest people living in Brazil. Some solution we can use as an incentive to reduce deforestation is the expansion of protection areas. By expanding critical important inhabitants within the Amazon region, we can maximize survival of biodiversity in Brazil.
Perfect. Another aspect of the environmental sustainability project involves land policy reform. Under Brazilian law, much of the Amazon is essentially an open access resource, so there's little incentive for squatters, farmers, or developers to use forest lands or resources in a sustainable manner. To remedy this wasteful use of land, lawmakers in Brazil should consider laws that restrict these practices. Another aspect involves law enforcement. Brazilian Environmental Protection Agency is largely underfunded. We propose to give them double their current funding of $9.5 million.
Flooding is also a main problem because it creates pollution and sanitation issues for the government, in which it affects the health of the Brazilian people.
One of the largest issues that Brazil faces is the gap of inequality. Due to low levels of education, they have an illiteracy rate of 9.6%, and rural areas have very little access to education. The other issue is the rural and urban divide. Those living in rural areas have lacked infrastructure, healthcare, and education. They also have fewer employment opportunities that are offered in rural areas. The Science Without Borders program is a program that offers opportunities to Brazilians who do not have the funds to receive a good education and allows them to go to the United States to receive a better education. This leads to the inequality gap becoming larger because the educated citizens who could potentially do a job well have a tendency to not come back because they are fearful they will return to the life they had before. A potential solution would be to educate the teachers in the rural parts of the country so that children will be properly educated and will not have to be sent out of the country to receive a good education.
The first of our solutions for income inequality would be to restructure the burdening tax system, which consists of an astronomical 20% federal sales tax that ups the costs of the most necessary items for survival. We propose to decrease the sales tax to 3% to lift the weight of everyday purchases for the masses. To make up the gap in the long term, we suggest restructuring the corporate income tax, which currently stands at a flat 25% rate. Instead, we will implement graduated corporate income tax rates, similar to the structure found in the US, which will be levied on businesses that make specific levels of profits. Another of our solutions involves purchasing idle land owned by mass exporters. Right now, mass exporters own the majority of the land in Brazil, which has created one of the highest land inequality gaps in the entire world. If we were to purchase some of this land and make it available for obtainment to poor crop farmers via a loan system, this would eventually redistribute the land and allow lower income individuals a chance to make money and pay back their government bond.